In this lesson, we'll learn about the four types of weather fronts. We'll learn about cold fronts, warm fronts, stationary fronts, and occluded fronts. A cold front forms when an air mass of relatively cooler or colder temperature, which is more dense, runs in to an area of warm air. And because the cold air is more dense and it's pushing into the warm air, this warm air gets pushed up and lifted because warm air is less dense. Anytime you have uplifting warm air, if there's enough moisture in that air, you can get some cloud formation. And in cold fronts, these clouds can get quite tall and produce thunderstorms and rain and various types of stormy weather along a cold front. A second type of front is what we call a warm front. This is where you have a warm air mass that pushes or runs into a cold air mass, and because warm air is less dense than cold air, it pushes it gradually out of the way, and this warm air again gets lifted, though not quite as much as with the cold front. So in a warm front, you can still get cloud formation along the front, but they're typically not your huge thunderstorm clouds. You can still get some periods of rain or maybe snow in the wintertime along a warm front. A third type of front is what we call a stationary front. This is where you have two air masses of different temperatures and density, let's say warm air pushing one way, and then you have a different air mass, let's say cold air, pushing back the other way, and neither one moves, can move the other one out of the way. Maybe their temperatures are somewhat close together, or there's some other weather system keeping them from moving. So what happens is, even though neither one is pushing it out of the way, the warm air still gets pushed upward on top of the colder air because it's less dense. And when this happens, again, anytime you have rising warm air that's humid enough, you can get some cloud formation again, and some periods of rain or snow depending on the time of year and the temperature. The fourth type of front is what we call an occluded front. In this type of front, we have a warm air mass somewhere kind of right here, and then we have a cold air mass that's moving pretty quickly and pushing into it, and we have a cooler air mass that's moving a little more slowly. And this warm air gets pinched in between. They also phrase it as when one cold front catches up to another cold front, they zip together and form what's called an occluded front. And again, when this happens, just like every other type of front, the warm air gets lifted or pushed up, and you get cloud formation again if it's humid enough air, and you can get rain or snow depending on the time of year and the temperature. The four fronts have different symbols on a weather map. For example, a cold front has blue triangles that point in the direction that the front is moving. I think they use triangles because cold fronts have a real sharp boundary, because the cold air is more dense and pushes the warm air out of the way quite rapidly. Warm fronts, on the other hand, are red semicircles pointing in the direction the front is moving, and the semicircles represent the smoother boundary because it takes the less dense warm air more time to move the cold air out of the way. A stationary front, on the other hand, has alternating blue triangles and red semicircles, showing that neither one is pushing the other one out of the way, so the symbols point in opposite directions, representing the fact that it's not moving or stationary. Finally, the occluded front to represent the fact that it's two cold air masses that join together, pushing a warm air mass out of the way, they use purple. And those have triangles and semicircles alternating, but on the same side of the line, and they use purple to represent the joining of red and blue. And occluded fronts move, therefore again they move in the direction the symbols are pointing.